War rarely produces real winners. History shows this again and again. When nations collide, when missiles fly, and when governments gamble with power, the people who suffer most are usually the ones with the least influence over the decisions being made. Ordinary citizens pay the highest price. And now, as conflict erupts around Iran, a new question is emerging across the world. Who will benefit from this war? And who will suffer the consequences? A war that reaches far beyond the battlefield. The confrontation between the United States, Israel, and Iran is already sending shockwaves through the Middle East and the global economy. Across the Gulf region, uncertainty is spreading. Millions of people across the Middle East have been forced to leave their homes as instability spreads. But the effects are not limited to the war zone. Thousands of miles away from the battlefield, ordinary consumers and businesses are also feeling the impact. Oil prices are climbing rapidly. Shipping routes in the Persian Gulf are under pressure. And one of the most critical choke points in the global economy, the Strait of Hormuz, is now at the center of the crisis. This narrow stretch of water carries a huge portion of the world's oil supply. Any disruption here can ripple across the entire global economy. As a result, governments everywhere are asking the same question. Which countries stand to lose the most? And which may find opportunity hidden inside the chaos? A temporary opening for Russian oil. In an effort to calm the turbulence in global energy markets, the United States has taken an unusual step. Washington has temporarily allowed certain sanctioned countries to purchase Russian oil and petroleum products, but there is a condition. The oil must already be loaded onto ships and currently traveling at sea. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent described the move as a short-term measure designed to stabilize global energy markets during wartime. According to the administration, this authorization will remain in effect until April 11th. Bessent emphasized that the policy is limited and temporary. It applies only to oil that is already in transit and, he says, will not provide any meaningful financial advantage to the Russian government. Even so, markets reacted quickly. Oil prices surged past $100 per barrel. Stock markets around the world slipped. But Bessent insists this spike is temporary, a short disruption that could ultimately strengthen the U.S. economy in the long term. At the same time, Washington is preparing another measure. Once military conditions allow it, the United States plans to begin escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz using military protection. Officials say the possibility of naval escorts has always been part of contingency planning. The moment safe passage can be guaranteed, those escorts will begin. Russia, a setback and an opportunity. For Russia, Iran has long been a crucial partner, politically and militarily. The death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei represents a serious diplomatic blow for Moscow. In recent years, Russia has already seen major setbacks among its allies. The government of Bashar al-Assad in Syria collapsed. And in Venezuela, U.S. forces captured Nicolas Maduro, transferring him to New York. These developments have weakened Russia's network of strategic partners. But the new Middle Eastern crisis may also offer Moscow an unexpected advantage. As tensions escalate, American military attention is beginning to shift away from Ukraine and toward the Middle East, and that shift could benefit Russia. According to Nicole Grivsky of the Paris Institute of Political Studies, global supplies of Patriot missile systems and interceptors are becoming stretched. That matters, because fewer available missile defenses mean fewer options for Ukraine. Experts also point out that Iran now requires far larger numbers of Shahed drones for its own military operations. But this demand is unlikely to significantly affect Russia's war capabilities. Earlier in the Ukraine war, Moscow relied heavily on Iranian drone supplies. Iran provided not only the drones themselves, but also the technology and production licenses needed to manufacture them. But that relationship has evolved. Today, Russia has the ability to produce Shahed drones on its own. Iran is no longer essential to Russia's drone supply chain. Meanwhile, disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz are pushing oil prices sharply upward. For Russia, whose economy has been strained by the Ukraine war, that could provide welcome financial relief. Russia's federal budget assumes oil prices of about $59 per barrel, but during the current crisis, prices have climbed close to $120 per barrel. At the same time, major Gulf oil exporters are cutting production. That creates an opportunity for Russia to expand exports to major energy consumers such as China and India. According to energy economist David Fife, India had previously faced strong pressure to reduce purchases of Russian oil. Now, however, the United States has effectively given India permission to resume those purchases, at least for the next month. Negotiations are also underway to ease certain sanctions on Russian oil in order to stabilize global markets. China. Pressure on the world's export engine. China has not been hit as directly by the Iran conflict as some other countries, but that does not mean it will escape the consequences. Iran supplies only about 12% of China's crude oil imports, and Beijing has already built up large strategic oil reserves that could last for months. If necessary, China can also increase imports from Russia. But the real challenge lies elsewhere. China's economic model depends heavily on exports. Roughly 20% of the country's GDP comes from goods and services sold abroad, and those exports rely on global shipping routes. While disruptions near the Strait of Hormuz are not China's biggest concern, access to the Atlantic Ocean remains critical for Chinese products headed toward Western markets. Another vital shipping choke point lies nearby, the Bab al-Mandeb Strait. This narrow passage connects Asia, Europe, and Africa through the Red Sea, and it has already been targeted by attacks from Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi militants. If those attacks intensify, global shipping could face severe disruption. Cargo vessels traveling from Asia to the Atlantic might be forced to take a much longer route, sailing around the southern tip of Africa and the Cape of Good Hope. According to Middle East expert Neil Quilliam of Chatham House, that detour comes at a steep cost. It adds 10 to 14 days to a voyage and increases shipping expenses by roughly $2 million per vessel. But the crisis may also create diplomatic opportunities for China. Analysts suggest that President Xi Jinping could use the moment to portray himself as a stable and predictable global leader, especially in contrast to the more unpredictable style of U.S. President Donald Trump. For Beijing, the conflict also offers a chance to observe how Washington responds to other sensitive issues, including the future of Taiwan, the self-governing island claimed by China. Emerging economies, the countries feeling the shock first. While major powers maneuver for advantage, many developing countries are already facing immediate consequences. Southeast Asian economies are particularly vulnerable because they rely heavily on Middle Eastern energy supplies. Several governments have already introduced strict emergency measures. In Vietnam, diesel prices have jumped by 60% since the war began. Authorities are encouraging citizens to work from home whenever possible. In the Philippines, where about 95% of crude oil imports come from the Middle East, government employees are now working 4-day weeks, except those in essential services. In Bangladesh, the situation has triggered panic buying. Long lines formed at petrol stations, forcing the government to introduce strict fuel rationing. Cars are limited to 10 liters per day. Motorcycles are limited to 2 liters. The hidden threat, food. But the consequences of this war may go far beyond energy shortages. They could reach the global food supply. Farmers around the world depend on fertilizers to keep soil productive and crops resilient. One of the most important components of fertilizer is urea, and nearly 30% of the world's urea supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Urea is produced using petrochemicals derived from refined crude oil. If a major portion of that supply disappears from global markets, the impact on agriculture could be severe. Already, the crisis has forced major producers to respond. After attacks on its facilities, Qatar Energy, one of the world's largest gas exporters and a key producer of fertilizer materials, has declared force majeure. This emergency measure allows the company to temporarily suspend production and shipments. Experts warn that the effects may take time to appear, but within 6 to 9 months, the consequences could become visible. Rising food prices, fertilizer shortages, and growing pressure on global food security. The damage may not happen overnight, but once it begins, it could last for years. Wars reshape the world in ways that are often impossible to predict. Some nations find opportunity in chaos, others struggle simply to survive the shock. But one pattern remains constant. When global powers collide, the consequences spread far beyond the battlefield, and the people who pay the highest price are almost always the ones who never chose the war in the first place. Thank you for watching. This is US Mag.